It's a very messy situation, and I'm extremely conflicted over what to do. I can't talk to my wife because she doesn't know any of this, and she also doesn't know that I knew Oliver cheated on his wife and had another child. I'm afraid of how she might react if she finds out I've known this entire time that he had an on-off affair with another woman and ignored it. I was contacted recently by Oliver's daughter, who I'll call Maria. She wants to know more about her family and to be introduced to some of her dad's relatives, and she wants my help. The problem is, she, 1, doesn't know any of them, literally doesn't know their names. So I'd actually have to give her names and tell them who she is, and 2, they have no clue she exists and no idea that Oliver had an affair. I've been debating about what I should do, since Oliver never expressed any interest in her meeting his family or knowing anything about his life here in the States. As far as I know, he always intended to keep that part of his life a secret. I'm conflicted because she's a really sweet girl and I'd like to help her, but I also know that if this comes out, then not only will it tarnish people's memory of Oliver, but also it will absolutely devastate his wife and children. I'm also afraid of the backlash I might receive as well, since I've known about the affair for all this time and even knew he had a daughter. I can see my wife being upset by that. I could try to come up with some excuse for why she knows about me, but there's no good explanation for how she'd know about me without her father mentioning me. I have no idea what I should do. Part of me hopes that maybe Maria will lose interest in this, but it seems like she really wants to learn about this side of her family, which I can understand since that is one of the only remaining connections she has to her family. What should I do? Seriously, so many people are saying that Maria deserves to get to know her family, which in an ideal world, she does. But no one is considering that dead friend's wife and kids might freak out over this. If this falls on Maria and she gets crucified by this family, rejected, told she shouldn't exist, ruin their family, etc., it's going to be terrible for her. It's sad, but it wouldn't be the first time that the anger is taken out on the wrong person, especially since the right person is now dead. This is not a situation where you just walk up to their house with Maria. If you want to try to do what's best for everyone, then you should first be honest with the wife. Let her process this and ask how she wants to proceed with telling her kids. Ask her if she wants to meet Maria at all. And absolutely get Maria's mother involved since she's still a kid. They can handle it from there. I think just introducing them because it's what Maria wants can backfire, especially on Maria, if not handled the right way. I'm having trouble processing all of this and need some help figuring out what to do about it. Normally, I would talk to my mom or dad or my wife, but I can't do that for reasons that will become clear. I was over at my brother's house earlier today, just hanging out watching the early college football games. He seemed kind of off, so I asked him if he was okay. He said he was, so I didn't feel like pushing him on it. We kept watching football, and then he suddenly turned the TV off and told me that we needed to talk. He started crying, which is something I've never known my brother to do, and telling me that he made a horrible mistake and doesn't know what to do or how to fix it. I tell him that I'm sure whatever it is can't be as bad as he thinks. I was wrong. He then tells me that he got his wife's sister pregnant, or at least he thinks he did. From what he tells me, they started an affair a few months ago, and his sister-in-law found out a few weeks ago she is pregnant. They have been discussing what to do, but it seems like 1, she wants to keep it, and 2, they plan to pretend that the baby was fathered by a stranger or some random guy from a one-night stand. He wants to know what I think he should do, but the thing is, I don't know what to tell him. I have to admit that I am very close to my brother, and that makes me biased. My instinct is to protect him and tell him that if he wants to stay with his wife, the only way to do that is to keep it a secret. Plus, he is right that he could avoid the fallout that he would face from her family and ours. However, I think this is wrong. He did something that I strongly disapprove of. And as much as I dislike my sister-in-law, I'm not even sure she deserves this. Quite frankly, I'm not sure it will matter. He seems fairly certain that they are making the right decision, and I've already promised him I won't reveal any of this to our family. You guys are total fools if you think for even 1 second that this will remain a secret. It'll come out and be so much worse. Not only will your brother be the piece of crap adulterous husband, he'll be a liar, and you'll be complicit in that lie. That lie he's going to have to tell your mother. The lie you're going to have to tell your mother. You're both going to have to look your father in the eye and lie then too. The lies you'll have to tell every second of every day, because there's now a child involved. Every time the nephew is mentioned, you'll have to lie. This lie is going to get bigger and bigger, and you'll never be able to stop telling it. And even if you put yourself through all that, the lie will eventually come out and destroy everyone, despite your hardest work and best efforts. The worst part is, you'll deserve the destruction. If your wife finds out, she'll wonder what else you're keeping. Your parents will wonder what kind of deficient and dishonest humans they've raised, and wonder where they went wrong with your upbringing. This is the poison you're talking about feeding your family. Your brother needs to confess. Your brother needs to be an adult and take his lumps, and be grown up enough to not take you down with him by asking you to lie about his sordid and disgusting behavior. By asking you to lie about his child, your nephew, your parents' grandchild. You tell him that if he doesn't confess himself, you will do it for him, because you can't lie about a child for its entire life. It doesn't work, even if it remains a secret for the next 10 years. That means by the time this awful family-destroying secret comes out, the kid will be old enough to be really ducked up by it. I need somebody to tell me if what I'm doing is completely crazy. My new boyfriend is my former husband. I think at this point we're secretly dating. It started out as just sleeping together a few times, but it's evolved into a full-blown relationship again. I feel stupid and silly and giddy and like I want to slap myself, while on the other hand, I just want to say screw it and enjoy the happy feelings it's giving me. I'm currently 41. He's 47. We met when I was 22, married when I was 24, and had a baby when I was 26. We share one son who is now 15. When our son was getting ready to turn 5, I found out that my husband was cheating on me. He was having an affair with a younger woman. He didn't confess to me. I found out about it on my own. I was a stay-at-home mom, and my whole world was turned upside down. I left him as soon as I found out about it, and moved into divorce proceedings soon after that. Back then, there wasn't going to be any changing my mind. It was the only option, and I really didn't think twice about it. Divorce hurt, but I never saw myself as somebody who would consider staying with a cheating spouse. I gave him absolutely no chance to reconcile. He said he wanted us to stay together. I didn't give any of his begging or pleading the time of day. I gave him the ultimate cold shoulder and took him for everything that I could in the divorce as well. After the first year, I just began to get over the cheating part. We started to get along again. I even got along with his new wife, the woman he cheated on me with. She got pregnant and he married her. We attended our son's school activities and birthday parties and got along amicably and didn't have to avoid each other on opposite sides of the room. He's always been very involved in his son's life. We share 50-50 custody, and it is truly 50-50 in practice. I eventually started dating and married again. My second husband is a good man. He was fantastic with my son. He loved me, provided for us, and gave me everything I wanted. I loved him, but not in a passionate, romantic way. I convinced myself I did, but I don't think I ever felt that way about him. I made myself pick 100% with my head, based on what seemed safe and secure and made sense. I spent a lot of time rationalizing that I loved him enough, that it was good enough, even if I never felt that complete lust, want to tear your clothes off sort of passionate attraction to him. Relationships and marriages are based on so much more than that, but over the last year or so of our marriage, I realized that I didn't want to be in a marriage, no matter how safe and secure. That didn't include an inkling of those sorts of feelings. It wasn't fair to him for me to pretend to have those feelings or to try to force them. Our involvement in each other's lives, I might even say borderlined on actual friendship at some points, did annoy our second spouses from time to time. Nothing inappropriate ever happened, but there was instances where both of our spouses were upset and saying things to the effect of, "But I'm your husband-wife, not him-her." I admit that I've always had special feelings for my first husband that I've never felt for any other man. But I chalked it up to him being the father of my only child and my first true love. His divorce was finalized about 5 or 6 months after mine. He said I inspired him to do it. He claims he never wanted to marry her, but felt obligated after blowing up our marriage with their relationship and eventually getting her pregnant after I left him. He felt like he had to make it into something legitimate. I wasn't shocked, since I never could figure out what they had in common. I was more surprised that their marriage lasted as long as it did in the first place. I actually felt bad for her, and I told him to not involve me in his reasoning for pulling the plug. He insisted it had nothing to do with me, other than helping him to realize that it was okay to divorce simply because you weren't happy with your spouse. He said it was as simple as realizing he didn't want to be married to her anymore, and he'd rather divorce her than cheat on her, which he confessed to me that he had come close to doing, but had sworn to himself that he would never do that to a woman again. So now here we find ourselves. Our son has no clue, as far as I'm aware. He's my main concern. He doesn't remember much about our divorce. He's always remembered us being divorced, but getting along, and that was his normal. I'm not sure how he'll react to us being together now. How do you explain this to a 15-year-old boy? I'm scared to set him up for major disappointment if it all goes south again. It's getting harder to hide it, since it's not like this is a random man I'm seeing in my free time. This is his dad, who he lives with half the time. I'm not ready to share it with the world, but my ex-husband, what do I even call him now, is of the mindset that he's almost 50 and he'll do whatever he wants, and he doesn't care about anyone's opinion on what we decide to do. So you divorced the cheating husband, and you're going back for seconds? Plus, he told you he came close to cheating on his second wife, and you seriously think he's a changed man because he says he'll never cheat again? Fool me once. I, 31 male, am getting married next year. Rather than a traditional wedding, my fiancée, 30 female, and I have planned a group trip to one of the most beautiful places in the world. We've booked an excursion package that will take us and our guests to various spas, tourist locations, etc. And we plan to do the actual wedding ceremony on the last day of the trip. Following that, our guests will go home, and my then wife and I will travel elsewhere for another week as our honeymoon. The problem is, the excursion package we booked is limited to 14 people, including the fiancé and I. If we wanted a bigger group, we'd have to upgrade to the next package, which would be considerably more pricey and not within our allocated wedding budget. My fiancé and I have planned out the guest list as follows: my mother, her parents, her twin sister, her 2 younger brothers, my 4 older siblings, and 2 very close mutual friends of ours. Here's the thing. Though my older siblings and I are very close in age, my mother got pregnant again by a different father when I was 12. My mother was doing very poorly at the time. Financial struggles, problems with addiction, ongoing depressive episodes, and didn't feel capable of taking care of another child. So my youngest brother ended up getting raised primarily by my mother's cousin, though he's been living at home with my mom since he was 14. He's now 19, and unfortunately, neither I nor my siblings are very close with him. We see him on major holidays and occasionally when we all visit home. But due to both the age difference and the fact that he wasn't raised by our mother, we just haven't been able to maintain a significant relationship. When my fiancé and I were putting together the guest list, I considered including him, but with the strict limitations on guest numbers, it came down to him versus one of my best friends. Honestly, I'm far closer with my friend. After we invited everyone, my mom called me to tell me that my brother was incredibly upset that he hadn't been invited. She said that she couldn't believe that I would leave him out of a family event like this, especially as he's been left out of so much family stuff throughout his life. But my other siblings agree with me. None of them are very close to him either, and they know they wouldn't choose him over their best friends if the choice had to be made. I feel bad about hurting his feelings, but I still think it's my and my fiancé's decision who we invite to our wedding. Thoughts? This is the hard thing about destination weddings. Not everyone can be included. It's very generous that you and your fiancé are paying for the excursion. I'm assuming the only thing the guests are paying for is the flight, instead of asking your guests to shell out to attend. That said, I totally get why your younger brother and mother are upset. It sounds like he is the only family member being left out, and it sounds like that's been a pattern his whole life. Yes, the a-hole, for handling it this way, instead of considering a different solution. Booking him a flight out to at least be there for the wedding, booking his excursion separate, inviting him instead of a friend. You picked your brother to be expendable. It doesn't sound as if you or your other siblings have made much effort to get to know this kid in the past 5 years, let alone his early life. This will probably be the nail in the coffin for y'all's relationship, but I'd at least try to find a way to invite him.